All right, $500 million in crypto. Just snatched right from Iran. Yeah, you heard that right. That's wild to me. But hold on, somebody explain this. We're running around freezing people's bank accounts left and right. Fine. But crypto from Iran? Where was this stash even sitting? Who was holding on to it? Because it really feels like they just walked up to somebody and said, hand it over. And the whole legal basis for grabbing it, nobody's really breaking that down for me. I'm confused on that part. Now here's the thing though. 500 million is 500 million at the end of the day. Picture dumping all of that into our national reserve. I mean, whether that's all Bitcoin or a mix of different coins, I'm not totally sure. But if Bitcoin makes up the bulk of it, that's a serious boost right there. The mystery around the how and the why though, still scratching my head on that one. But okay, let's move forward. Got anything else? So outside of all this drama, any bright spots worth talking about? Actually, yeah, something pretty major dropped. Paul Atkins, the man currently steering the SEC, came out saying, it's encouraging to see public companies adopt Bitcoin and crypto as Treasury reserve assets. Stop everything and actually absorb what he just put out there. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about a full U-turn here, and honestly, it's fantastic. He's essentially telling corporations, go ahead, load up your books with crypto. The shift couldn't be more dramatic. Wait, let me rephrase that. Dramatic doesn't even cover it. This is light years ahead of where we were, and it's the polar opposite of how the old guard operated. Those folks treated the entire crypto world like it was the enemy. So looking ahead, the runway is wide open now. Yeah, right this second, markets haven't budged much from this news. But fast forward a bit. When the tide shifts and that FOMO wave crashes in, and corporations are tripping over each other trying to stack Bitcoin or ETH or Solana on their books, just think about what that unleashes. We're talking about a seismic shift. This is foundational stuff right here. The American crypto scene is leveling up, becoming legitimate, and the wall of money waiting to rush through the gates is mind-blowing. You and I are sitting front row watching something historic play out. Tons of folks out there are sleeping on this completely, but down the line, the shockwaves from all of this are going to be absolutely massive. All right, next up, there's big news around Tether. The amount of money Tether pulls in is honestly obscene. So what are they doing with it? They're eyeing these blockbuster mergers. We're hearing names like Strike, 21 Capital, and then there's this outfit called Electron Energy, which is completely new to me. What these firms all share, though, is they're loaded with Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Now, Tether by itself already dwarfs all of them when it comes to Bitcoin holdings. But the real play here is smashing everything together to form this monster Bitcoin war chest that could rival anything out there. Strategy better be watching their back on this one. And what makes this even crazier, Tether doesn't face any of the usual corporate headaches. Need to sell stock to fund this? Nope. Go borrow from somebody? Not a chance. Their business model is basically a license to mint cash. Every blockchain where their stablecoin moves, they're collecting a cut. And global adoption? Through the roof and climbing faster every day. Fresh revenue floods in around the clock. We're talking millions piling up week after week, and quarterly numbers hitting the billions. Wrap your head around that for a second. But they're not parking that mountain of cash in some vault. They're channeling it straight into these mega deals. The end game here is obvious. Catapult themselves into the absolute upper tier of Bitcoin whales worldwide. Once everything's combined, they'll absolutely be neck and neck with the top dogs. They're not quite matching the biggest holder yet, but add it all up, and from what I last saw, Tether on its own was holding roughly 200,000 Bitcoin. Now stack on all these companies they're merging with, and you're probably looking at around 300,000 total. That solidly locks them into the number 2 position globally. Zero debate about that. On top of all this, every 3 months, Tether takes a chunk of their profits and goes straight to market buying more Bitcoin. So honestly, they've become an unstoppable force in this space. When I think about who's really running crypto right now, Binance sits at the top, Coinbase is right there with them. But that third seat, Tether owns it without question at this point. Circle? Yeah, they're looking up at Tether from below. Look, there's no way to spin this as anything but a win. Here's a company that built its name purely on stablecoins, and now they're throwing themselves headfirst into the Bitcoin world. But wait, there's more to it than just accumulating coins. They've gone out and set up actual mining facilities. Real hardware, real operations, cranking out Bitcoin themselves. They're weaving themselves into every layer of this thing. And for the Bitcoin community, this should feel like Christmas morning. Why? Because when fresh players pour in, when capital keeps stacking up, when new infrastructure goes online around the network, Bitcoin only gets more powerful and harder to shake. And that's precisely what's unfolding here. Really wild to sit back and process all of this. Strike barely got off the ground not too long ago. 21 Capital is still practically a newborn company. And now both of them are on the verge of getting swallowed up under the Tether umbrella. The speed at which this industry reshapes itself is honestly unreal. Take yourself back a couple of years and nobody gave Tether a chance of surviving. Hand on heart, I was skeptical of them myself during that whole period. They were getting dragged into courtrooms by states, regulatory bodies were circling them nonstop, and there was that whole fiasco about money not adding up properly. Everything looked like it was falling apart. And yet, look who's still here. They ate every hit and kept moving forward. Found a path through when most people assumed there wasn't one. Today, they're sitting pretty as a certified powerhouse across the crypto landscape. So what else we got? This next one carries some serious weight. Morgan Stanley put out word that they're advising a 4% crypto allocation for their clientele. Plus, they went ahead and launched their own ETF recently too. Knowing that, the recommendation clicks right into place. Now zoom out and grasp the bigger picture. We're not talking about some boutique firm here. These massive institutions oversee fortunes for countless individuals. People hand over their financial futures to these banks and follow whatever direction they point toward. What do these firms do? They manage money. That's their whole existence. And pretty soon, every last one of them will be nudging clients to carve out a piece of their portfolio for crypto. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Because this goes way beyond corporations building up their own crypto stashes. The real game here is pulling people in from the sidelines. And I'm talking about the big fish, the ones holding serious capital who've just been sitting there waiting for a green light. So what else dropped? Get this. Alberta Investment Management Corporation, a government-owned Canadian fund worth $142 billion, just disclosed ownership of 1.38 million Strategy shares. I mean, does that even surprise anyone at this stage? Scan the landscape and the pattern is unmistakable. Institutions snatching up raw Bitcoin, diving into ETFs, or buying chunks of Strategy. Retirement funds, pensions, endowments, you name the vehicle, and chances are Strategy shares are packed inside it. Strategy has basically become everyone's front door into Bitcoin. And that dynamic is actually genius because follow the breadcrumbs. Investors hand Strategy mountains of cash through share offerings, and Strategy flips around and dumps all of it into buying more Bitcoin. Okay, so let me finish off with where prices stand and some news on alts. The critical numbers to watch. $80,000 is the level everyone's eyeing. Sure, we could dive into chart analysis, but honestly, the story is straightforward. We need momentum to carry us forward. Our recent peak landed right at 79,000. We're basically dancing around that zone right now. The tiniest catalyst could do it. Once we punch above that ceiling, the 80s are right there, and 90s come knocking shortly after. Literally every technical signal is pointing up. Such a small gap between here and liftoff. Picture where we're planted at the moment, kind of in a resting phase. Remember we crawled back up from that 60,000 bottom, and now we've been just chilling, consolidating at this range. Here's what history keeps teaching us about moments like these. First comes the calm, that boring stretch where nothing seems to move, and then out of nowhere things absolutely rip upward with serious aggression. Time after time, that's exactly how the script plays out. If this brought you value, smash that like for me. I want to hear what's on your mind about all of this, so throw your take in the comments. Genuinely thankful you hung out with me today, and I'll be back with you in the next one.